We've been having long, deep, I found it very uplifting conversations on the way of love. Feel a lot of peace actually just sitting in here and talking about these bigger things. And then we come on to your last main chapter, which you've called The Way of Salvation. And this, well, I don't know what it is in your world, whether it's a 60-page manifesto or call to action or rant about the state of the world today and what you hope for it instead. How would
I describe that?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's the best way I can describe it is that chapter is a call to action to my young self. I don't know how else to say it. And if someone else can listen in on it and say that resonates with me too, and I want to step forward in that kind of strength and beauty, then I'm happy. It really is it's telling my young self that it's okay. That it's okay. And you do have worth, and you do have value, and you are. And you can stand on the earth without apology. You can have these great masculine traits that society says you can't have. Mm. This is a very contrarian book. It's contrary to a lot of the instructions, the dating instruction out there. That there's things in here that say the opposite of what you're taught. Across the spectrum almost, you know. So this really is very specific, generational, I think, call to a higher standing. I think. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
Because it says it. I said it all there, I think.
And I don't want to go too much into the details of what you've written, because the book is here for everyone to read. Main summary, at least in my world, is that there seems to be like this transcendent part to this message, which is to move towards beauty in all its forms, to live a life of truth and beauty, goodness, love, authenticity, which philosophers have spoken about since ancient Greece and before, no doubt. And again, there seems to be a time or generation specific quality to this chapter as well, which is talking about the excesses and the negative side of this modern rational worldview that most of us have grown up in, that you've certainly been a part of for your first 40 years.
Yeah.
Well, you're 20 to 40, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's about casting the remnants of that away and bravely going on into a new paradigm, into a new era.
Yeah, you know, it's a bold chapter because it is a rant, for instance, against this entire woe is me self-help generation, and that it's time for something different. It's time for like a more meaningful stance and a more outward pouring of our energy, as opposed to like navel gazing, and we can only see our own problems and ourselves and all our, woe is me and trouble. And you talk about community and the things you've experienced in the last few years of like different people who are also reaching out and saying, let's look outward to each other. And so it's all of those things combined for me. Yeah. Boy, I wish I would have had a strong voice when I was young. Mm-hmm. Not beating the crap out of your voice, but a strong voice. I wish I would have had it. Yeah.
The other reading I get from this is, it feels like it's talking to that young man who is probably getting some social or family pressure to go onto the corporate ladder and do the right thing and live a life according to the rules of others.
Yeah.
But his heart, or there's still a little bit of one foot that's wondering, what would it be like if actually I went on the adventure that I always dreamed of. Like, what would it be like if I didn't do that and try to carve a different way? And it feels like you're saying to the young man who's caught between those two different decisions, it feels like you're giving him a tug towards his own independence and his own hero's journey.
Yeah, and again to myself.
Yeah.
Because it would be imprudent of me to say, hey, young men of the world, give up your college ambitions and go hit the road. Do you understand? That would be, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I did say in here, in this chapter, I mean, follow your dreams, but you still got to eat, right? Can't eat your dreams, but it's as everything else, it's that spirit of adventure in your soul, to always, always, always embrace that, and that little boy mischief in you, to embrace that in all of its glory. No matter what our path, no matter what our responsible path, you can become a banker in the UK. That's okay too. As I said in that chapter, as long as it's mindfully chosen, as long as it's something that you said, that's a path that has heart and meaning to me. There's music in that path to being a banker. I like that. Then it's a beautiful choice. Yeah. And the banker, because of his obligations and his commitments, he can't just go off and, go live in Brazil for 3 months, necessarily. But maybe that's what someone needs. That's what you needed. You started your journey by going to South America, am I right?
Yeah.
We talk about the Memoirs of the Buccaneer story that I shared with you. I read that book 10 years ago. I found that book. It's out of print. You can't find it. I found an old 1952 Allen and Unwin or something edition in the basement of an antiquarian bookstore. All these old dusty old books, and I found that there. Never heard of it. I bought it. 10 years later, I tell you about it. You found one copy somewhere. It's not available. You look at Amazon. It's listed on Amazon, but it's not available to buy.
There were 2 or 3 editions, but
and they're gone.
Mates bought them all. When I told them about it.
Because you have to mention it in a webinar or a podcast, boom, they're all gone.
Yeah.
But Jordan, that's your story. This pirate went from France and said, I've got to go the mundane. You did the same thing. You bailed out of it. You didn't have anything to go back to, and you went to South America. So maybe that does resonate with someone, and that has more heart and meaning. So
there's definitely a call for leadership in this last chapter, though, as well.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Never follow again.
Yeah.
It's my message I've been saying for years. Never follow again. No wonder women don't, they date us, but they don't desire us, because we're sensitive followers that are trying to please her. It's in every aspect of life: business, entrepreneurship, career, education, everything. It's like lead. Be a leader.
Thinking about, we talked in the last chapter about The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell,
Yeah.
who studied all the mythologies of the world, and kind of, the complete different parts of the world, with no connection to each other, all came up with the same truths, and he came up with this idea of the monomyth. And he said there's a call to adventure,
Yeah.
and then there's the refusal to call. And this chapter seems like that for people there. We were talking about these big things like beauty and stuff, and it's scary. And
Yeah.
you're going to have to put some things behind you to go here, where, being called to a different path, a path of the heart. And imagine people reading this, we've got this call for adventure, call for leadership, call for a different way. And there are also partners refusing the call as well.
Oh yeah.
And it's just saying, be responsible. If you've got no money, we're not saying travel the world or do these things, but wherever your heart is calling you, go with that in a responsible way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that, Many can hear a strong call to action, but very few will take up the banner. Very few. But that small few is powerful. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about self-help,
Okay.
which I'm going to challenge you a bit. It seems like there could be something a bit paradoxical here that you're saying.
Really?
You know,
No.
Not another paradox.
No paradox.
you're saying don't. This self-help generation is, it's not needed. You don't want that. You have a different vision for that. And yet at the same time, this chapter does seem like, well, don't believe in self-help, but do listen to my message and follow my self-help instructions, which are to pause your life, to consider what you want it to look like, to go towards that. After 90 days, you can transform every aspect of your life. So as much as you want to distance yourself from the self-help world, you have a program and you have coaching.
This is a conscious thing I put in there.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. Because the hidden message underneath this is you don't need anything.
Right.
None of us need coaching. But because we don't believe it in ourselves, right? Coaching might be something, or self-help might be something that gets us, that grabs us and gives us some kind of motivation or gives us some kind of belief. So, but it is so simple. Everything that we're talking about is so simple. And if we just showed up, like we talked about in an earlier session, as men, as women, as you said, if we could just peel all that way. So, yeah, this is very self-referential. I've said in my seminars for years, you don't need another seminar. You don't even need this one. I've been saying that for years. Because that's the truth. If you just, like guys will take a workshop, for instance, to learn how to meet girls. And Rich here will say, okay, I'm your coach. Now go talk to that girl, and talk to that girl, and talk to that girl. And you talk to 25 girls in that evening. And you get a variety of experiences, but you've never done it before in your life. And you think, wow, that was so exhilarating. And one girl smiled at me. Another girl, she gave me her phone number. And you feel like that this man here helped me so much. But you could do it yourself.
At least with your buddy.
If somebody went out and said, listen, no matter what, I've never done it in my life before, I'm going to go talk to 25 different girls tonight and just say hi. Right? You'd have the same experience. But it needs that kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we said before the other day about this 10,000 hours, with a good coach, you can cut a lot of the needless repetition of things that are not working.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us can deny that we've had big insights over the last 7 days by doing this, having this conversation with you right now.
Yeah,
Which short circuits a lot, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's rare to find this amount of experience.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is
Maybe there's an attachment.
I think what I'm trying to say is that we focus so much on the information of self-help. We're buying billions of books. And there's all the bestsellers. Or entrepreneurial, business, motivational, self-help, about risk. It's all this kind of stuff, and we're consuming. And I think my little semi-rant is about we're consuming, but no one's taking action. There's kind of like a feeling in me that we can put that book on the shelf, put it back on the shelf, and get out there. And you said it. You said it when we took a break here. Owen, is like you're still learning, but you have lots to share. That's how I feel. I'm still learning, but I have stuff to share. So I think that is really. It's not that the information is bad. It's that we're only consuming information, and we're nodding our head. We're sitting in audiences, in seminars and workshops. We're nodding our head, taking notes, and then we do it again. We're buying the next best-selling motivational book. We nod our head. And that's the extent. And of course, I'm generalizing. because there are some people that are doing some very strong, proactive things in this world for sure. I'm generalizing.
That's the key word, proactive.
Yeah, we become anesthetized. And and we're numb because we take our self-help Valium books, workshops, and it says, yeah, okay, I'm trying. But as I said early in the book and late in the book, every great life has had in it a great renunciation. There's no renunciation in that. That's just going through the motions every day and saying that someday I'll quit my job that I despise.
Right. It's the I'll get this when.
When, yeah. So that's what this is a cry against. And there's other voices in the wilderness. Doesn't mean that Ars Amorata has all the is the end all be all. But I think it's pretty full-fleshed and fully featured out, and it's going to be added with voices like you. It's going to be fleshed out even more, and it's exciting. So it's a call to. It's not a rant against the self-help, because there's some great messages out there. It's a rant against us just consuming it. Does that make sense?
It does. And I was thinking back to a concept I just thought about now, actually. Maybe it's best instead we have self-help, we have selfless help. In other words, we talk about people read these books and they want it like a little comfort blanket to go, well, I'm doing something and not taking any action.
Right.
And there's one yearning of this desire, like we want to take actions for ourselves. If you flip it another way, what if people, that's from the great people in the world, like Gandhi, what if he'd just done nothing? What if Martin Luther King has decided, you know what, I feel this urge to talk about equality,
right,
but I'm not sure I'm the best public speaker, this kind of thing. If we give it a new perspective of, by you not standing up and speaking your truth,
mm-hmm,
you're not just harming yourselves, you're depriving other people. I don't know the quote, there's a great book called The War of Art, not the art of war, the war of art. And I wish it had me here, and they can put it on the screen. It's one of the best quotes. It says, at the end of the day, it comes down to, are you going to do it, or you're not going to do it?
yeah.
And if you don't do it, not only do you deprive yourself, you rob the world of your gift, you bring spite to the angels that watch over you, all these grand things. It's like really
That's
hitting
powerful.
people hard. It's like, you're not just robbing yourself, you are depriving
great.
every other person here of your gift and your
Yeah.
truth and what you're giving to the world. You're being selfish by staying small. And
I like that.
That's a powerful, that's not my thought, but it's a powerful thing for people reading this to think. By you not showing up fully in the world, you are depriving other people of that as well.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you
How
do
dare
that?
you stay small?
Right, it's like what you were saying about going back a few episodes now about the woman. Oh, I'm only here for a month. Who am I to deprive that woman of that experience?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing, right?
When I was very early in my public speaking and in seminars and that kind of stuff, and I was very unsure, like not unsure that there was something great to say, but unsure that I had it fleshed out enough to be worthy of being said. And I really did. I questioned myself on maybe I need to sit for 3 years and really think about this and write something and maybe write a book. And a woman told me, a very wise woman, an older woman. Never forget it. I think I put it in the book as a comment. She said this, when I expressed that kind of like doubt, that self-referential doubt that maybe I haven't got it figured out enough and I don't know what to say exactly. And she said this, which is what I'm saying in here. To the ones who read the book, many will read, but a few will understand. The ones who understand the messages, what she said to me that time, I'll never forget it. When I expressed the doubt, she said, "You're carrying fire. Don't you dare drop it. You're carrying fire for the village. Don't you dare drop it." They need it for the next camp. That's your responsibility. And that means a lot to me. And there is an element in me that I think I fought for this so long. I've been fighting this battle of understanding for so long, and I'm going to explore new horizons and new exciting, cool things. That there's some kind of that there's something that has to be passed on. You kind of get that a little bit. I'm carrying fire, and I want to pass it on a bit, I think.
The sense I get, and this is my comment on this chapter as a whole, is that because it's talking about this consumerist age,
Yeah.
the message is very strong and very particular for that generation.
Yeah.
And there's another generation coming through that's like, oh, actually, there's a lot of your message which is obvious. Like, I know that I should be authentic because it's way better than playing games.
That's
like,
an
I figured
assumption.
that out.
That's an assumption. That is goes along with can't remember the names, but they wrote a book called The Fourth Turning, and their premise, their theory, right or wrong, is that every generation will flip the values of the one before and reject it.
Yeah.
And their expectation, I believe, if I'm reading it right, is that the next generation that's following this kind of post-consumer, generation will be a can-do generation, like after World War II, and say, you know what, we're going to fix the environment. That's ruined. We're going to, release our reliance on oil. We're going to fix this debt we inherited. Thanks, parents, and we're going to fix it. And so my kind of assumption, my loose reading of that, and it's a theory for sure, because it could be completely wrong. Maybe the next generation is even more in their heads and broken and selfish, and
no one can predict the future.
But there seems to me that that makes a lot of sense, that there's going to be a turning away from all the medication, self-help.
Well, I know the author that you're talking about,
Oh.
and my time in Boulder was very much about this new, it's not a new generation, because maybe the next generation does subscribe to this
Right.
worldview, and it heightens, particularly in different parts of the world. Who knows what will happen in China or India, for example.
Yeah.
But what Boulder are living is the maturity of this, like if this is the modern rational worldview and the start of the individualist postmodern worldview, they're coming to the end of that postmodern worldview, and they're moving into this more, we call it the integral.
Yeah, you're seeing more of that from your travels, right?
Yeah.
From where you've been the last few years.
So I'm living in the communities with the people that are occupying this new, more systemic, community-minded, legacy, intergenerational thinking worldview, and it is very much a can-do attitude.
So it isn't the same thing as like it's not consumerism. It's like post everything.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like they want to use the best of what business and capitalism had to offer, but only in the service of something greater, which is it's a human potential thing. So if that worldview gets hold of your book, and I've had friends that have, they see a lot of beauty in it, and yet that last chapter that we're talking about now,
They say,
the
hey,
way
we're
of
beyond that.
salvation, is going to be like, okay, so we're beyond the capitalist thing, and we've done the postmodern thing, and now we're in this new thing, and the chapter would be rewritten in a whole other way, like, oh well, these are the drawbacks of our time. What is the next paradigm that we need to solve the problems of today? And I'm
get that.
curious.
Yeah.
It's like I feel that I've got the seeds of a message for that in me, but I've got no passion or spark just yet, because I don't actually know how that's going to. Like, I'm thinking,
How it's going to evolve.
I can feel a massive conviction within myself of I've got a message that's forming out of what I've learnt with you and what I've seen around the world, and I don't quite know how to say it yet, but I know it's there, and I want it to come along, but I'm also in no rush. But I also want to be able to lay it down on the table right now and sparkle in front of the cameras and say, this is the message of tomorrow that we're all going to need. But it hasn't arrived.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a sense in me that, because I've been saying these types of things for years in my workshops and seminars. And there's a sense in me that putting in the book, it's been said. I have no urgency to say that anymore. I do think that I'm beyond it too. Like I'm looking for new things to say. I had an urgency. I'd be on stage, I'd be like talking to a crowd of people, and I'd be like, "Can you feel the urgency in the air? It's time for It's time for us to heed the call. And there was an urgency in my speaking, and yeah, that's interesting.
What I notice as well with the younger guys that are coming our way, probably 25, 28 and below, rather than quitting their corporate jobs to go and follow their rites of passage and their adventure, they've already traveled around the world.
Yeah,
And
that's changed.
they've already decided, I'm not going to be a banker or an accountant or a lawyer. I'm going to do something else, like I want to work with ecology or a charity, or I want to create my own business with my friends with something aligned with my values. And they're needing something very different from this conversation. And theirs is much more, what I feel, that generation is coming from much more of a place of, well, that essence of masculinity wasn't quite there. We actually grew up with very caring, empathetic men in our lives, but we don't have any sense of the Mad Men generation, what was before that. we want some of that fire and power, like that raw power. Like we want to get a hit of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's been said. I don't have that urgency anymore. Strange. Just had that realization. Time to explore new frontiers, man.